Okay, good. Now Shabbos. We're in the middle of a digression. We had Rabbi Yehuda says something in the name of Rav, and Rav Kahana asks questions on it. So the Gemara is being malakate. It's anthologizing all the places where Rav Yehuda said the name of Rav something, and Rav Kahana asked on that. So we're up to Gimel Amid Beis. We're from the bottom, 4 lines from the bottom, 5 lines from the bottom. From Rav Yehuda Amar Rav, haposeach beis hatzavar b'Shabbos. Guys, let's view a pair of tzitzis without a hole. Let's say you have a sheet of what? Of cloth, and now you go ahead and you cut an opening. So your poseach, you open, beis hatzavar, a place for your neck on Shabbos, chayiv chatas. You'll be chayiv, you'll be over Shabbos b'mezid, and you would be chayiv chatas for being mitaken a kli. You'd be chayiv midaraisa for being for tikkun kli. So that's the statement that Rav Yehuda made in the name of Rav. Maskefla Rav Kahana, asked Rav Kahana, v'chima ben zeh lemegufis chavius. You have a barrel, a stopper in a barrel. It's lined with clay, and you go ahead and you lop it off on what? On Shabbos. Why is that permitted? Samalei zeh chibur b'zeh ein chibur. Says Rashi, zeh the beis hatzavar hoye chibur hilkach pasach tikkun chadashu. It was connected, and therefore, when you opened it up, you made a new opening that wasn't there before. Aval hamagupa, the stopper of the barrel, afapi sheitoicha al pi hachavias petit, even though it's cemented on, ein zeh chibur. It's not mechubar. It's like considered opened already. It had been there before. Therefore, what? Words never was there before. It was the chibur, and therefore you lopped it open and you created the opening, tikkun kli. Mashen came where the barrel had been opened, closed, and smeared around with some type of seal. That is considered already opened already, and therefore you would not be chayiv. Okay, the next statement requires a bit of a hakdama. So we all know that a mikvah contains 40 sa. Once a mikvah contains 40 sa, an existing mikvah, you can't pass the mikvah. So I have a kosher mikvah. I could take mayim shuvim. I can keep on putting in mayim shuvim, and by and large, it's going to be tahar. It's going to be a good mikvah. What happens if a mikvah is a quart short? You don't have 40 sa. Then the Chachamim made a din d'Rabbanan. If you have 3 loigim of mayim shuvim, water that was drawn, it'll passel the mikvah. Good. Now, what happens if you have 3 loigim of mayim shuvim, and now you change the color? You put wine in it. So in terms of quantity, you have 3 loigim plus. Okay, so if and I don't have a mikvah, it should passel the mikvah. However, I have another factor I'm putting in over here, the color. You put in red wine, and now when you put it in the mikvah, it looks red in the mikvah. Would that passel a mikvah or not? That's the discussion on the hand. Says the Gemara, Rav Yehuda Amar Rav, shloisha loigim mayim, you have 3 existing loig of mayim, shenafel l'soicha kurtiv shal yayin, a kurtiv, a certain measure of wine falls in, umarei and kamar yayin, and now those 3 loigim don't look like water anymore. They look like what? They look like wine. V'naflu l'mikvah, now they fall into the mikvah. They fall into the mikvah. Again, guys, the mikvah does not have 40 sa. Guys, the mikvah does not have 40 sa. Loi pasluhu. It's not going to passel the mikvah. Because obviously Rav, who says this, guys, is going after color. You do take color into, in other words, in order to passel a mikvah, you have to be the color of water. You have to be clear. Since this is red, you're going after that, you will not go ahead and passel the mikvah. That's important to know. Maskevla Rav Kahana, what's the difference between yayin that does not passel and paint water that does? Ditnan, Rabbi Yossi Omer made seva if you have 3 loigim. And there's what? There's paint water. Paislas mikvah b'shleisha loigim it passel. So over there, why don't you go after the appearance over there as well? Made seva l'chayre. It's water used by a dyer. Obviously, it has some type of pigment in it, and it is passeling the mikvah. Yet you're saying red wine doesn't passel the mikvah, right? You're saying red wine does not. You're saying red wine does not passel the mikvah. So Amalei Rava, Hasam Mayim Ditseva Mikri. It doesn't lose its shame. It's called Mayim Ditseva. Therefore, we'll consider it Shlosh Lugim of Mayim She'uvim. Hachra, over here, where it's diluted wine, it's Chamra Miziga Makri. We no longer call it Mayim She'uvim, guys. We call it diluted wine. Memela, this name itself won't passel. So, Rav Shita, Chazusa, we do consider color vis-a-vis the halacha mayim shuvim. Question from Meitzeva, therefore the main word it's considered it's considered water, and therefore it's considered mayim shuvim, and it would pass a mikvah that does not have 40 sa. Okay. Freg the Gemara on Rav, who says that chazusa does not pass a mikvah, but Tani Reb Chia, Hariduesa mikvah, it would go ahead and take down the mikvah, meaning the mikvah would not be kosher. It won't be kosher. The mikvah won't be good. So Amarav like Kasha, Rabbi Yochanan Nuri, Rabbanan. Rav said is then according to Rabbi Yochanan Nuri that you go after appearance, and Reb Chia said is then according to the Chachamim. Okay, guys, outside. This is a bit of a challenge. The Gemara is right now we have a problem. Rav is an Amoira. We have Reb Chia who is a Tana. He's saying that what? That if you have 3 loigin of Mayim Shuvim mixed with red wine, falls into a mikveh that's a quart short, it's going to pass the mikveh. Rav said it doesn't. The Gemara answers, Rav, it's a machlokes tanoim, and Rav goes according to a certain shita. Rav goes according to the shita of Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. The Gemara now is going to introduce 2 possibilities. Either Rav goes only according to Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri and argues in the Tanakama, or he even agrees with the Tanakama. So there's 2 possibilities. The first one we're going to address only according to Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. Okay, so now, what does Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri hold, guys? You go after color, guys. What do the Chachamim hold? You don't go after color, correct? Meaning, even if it has color, it would pass the mikvah. Where do you see the Chachamim say that? Says the Gemara. Ditnan. It's a Mishnah in Mikvois. The Mishnah is in the 7th perek of Mikvois, Mishnah Hey. Ditnan. Shloisha logim mayim. The keywords, underline them, chasa kurtiv. In other words, in the first case, guys, we had 3 full loigim of mayim. Over here, we don't have 3 full. We're chasa kurtiv. In other words, not only is the mikveh a quart short, even the mayim she'uvim is a quart short. So you don't have this share of mayim she'uvim. You don't have 3 loigim. You have 3 loigim, a quart short. Shenafal l'soichan kurtiv mayim. Now what happened? Wine fell in, and now you have 3 loigim. Now you have the full share. Guys, but what don't you have? You don't have the full share of water. You have the full share of volume of liquid, but you don't have water. Now, umareim kimayar yayin, and it falls into the mikvah, and it looks like wine. V'naflu mikvah, that's a quart short. Loi pasluhu, it won't passel the mikvah. Outside, guys, here's the sugya. When you tell me the reason why it's not puzzle is because it's a quart short, even though it looks like wine, but it's not puzzle. You know why it's not puzzle? Because you never had 3 full loigim. Make the diak. What happens if you would have had 3 full loigim? Even though you do have the marav yayin, it would puzzle. So you see, you don't go after wine. Again, one more time. That's the diak. This is the shita, guys. The reason why this doesn't passel is because you're a quart short. You have 3 logan, less a little bit. It's being fulfilled with the yayin. Therefore, it doesn't passel. What happens if you would have 3 full logan and then mayim, and then yayin, and it looks like yayin? It would passel. But 1 second, isn't it what? Isn't it look like yayin? What do you see? We don't care what it looks like. If you have 3 full logan, it's going to passel. That's Reb Chia's shita. That's the bottom line on the Amid Beis. That's the one that argues on Rav. So again, okay, and Rav goes according to Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, who we're going to say right now. The Chayin, in addition, Gimel loigin mayim. You have Gimel loigin mayim. Chasa kurtiv, that's a quart short. Shenafel l'soicha kurtiv chalav, that milk falls in. Umareim kimara mayim, and it looks like water. V'naflu mikvah loy paslua. You know why it's not going to passel, guys? You never had 3 loigim. You were a quart short, and then you took a quart of Walker Gordon milk I'm aging myself. And you went ahead and put it in. So therefore, it's not going to passel, even though it looks like what? Like water. Everything goes after the appearance. So in the Reisha, Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri is going to say, since it's red, it won't passel. In the Seifa, Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri says, even though you were a quart short, now that quart was filled with chalav, it looks like water, it would passel. Good? Okay, so now, based upon the inference of the Reisha, we've explained the machlokes between Rav and Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. Rav goes according to Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. All you care about is the color. At the end of the day, the shear is not as important. If you would be mitzaref to share with something that would affect the color, it's going to be what? It's going to be puzzle. If it's going to be puzzle, for example, milk, puzzle. If it's wine, it won't puzzle. Like the Tanakama, I only care about one thing. I only care about the share. So the reason why in the Reisha of our, again, the bottom line is that opening line. Chasa Kortiv, the reason why it doesn't puzzle, because it's Chasa Kortiv. You never had 3 full loigen. Good? But if you would have had 3 full loigen, then what? So it comes out right now that Rav is a machlokes tanoim. Rav is machlokes tanoim. Now, in learning, by now we know no Amoira wants to enter machlokes tanoim. He wants to come out the Kuli Alma. He wants to come out according to everybody. Okay, I'm going to foreshadow you the Gemara by changing one word, guys. Change the word at the top. Let's change the word at the top. Don't say chasa kortiv. Say 3 loigim mayim she'uvim shenaflu l'soiche kortiv yayin. So now I have the share. I have 3 full loigin. In addition, now I have it changing color. Umarein kamari yayin. V'naflu l'mikvah. And it falls into mikvah. Loi paslua. It's not going to pasl the mikvah. How come? Because the Tanakama says you need both. You need shear and you need it to be clear. So over here I have the shear, but it's not clear. It looks like wine. If that's the case, Rav holds even like the Chachamim. Guys, you see, if you change those words around and don't say it's missing a quart short, but it's a full 3 loigin, if you're going to say it's a full 3 loigin, then Rav is going to come out according to the Tanakama as well. And the machlokes between Tanakama and Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri is not in the Reisha, because Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri would agree in the Reisha. All right, guys, outside. We didn't do the Gemara inside yet. Let's do it outside. It'll become clear. The first lashon is I'm a quart short. I only have 2. I don't have 3 loigim. Memela, the reason why it's not puzzle is because I'm missing that. Once I have that and wine, it's going to puzzle. So why? Because this Tana doesn't care about the color. He cares about the share. Okay? That's the diak. Mimela, Rav disagrees with him because Rav says you do care about the color. Good, great. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri says you care about the color. There's a second way to learn in this brisa, guys. Change that opening line of chasa kurtiv. It doesn't say chasa kurtiv. It doesn't say that. It says, watch, you don't have 2. Guys, you don't have 2, you have 3. And now what happens? If this would have fallen in like this, puzzle. But you know what happened? You got some wine mixed in there. And now it looks like wine. So this Tano says doesn't puzzle, also cares about color. So very good. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri cares about color. Rav cares about color. Great. Right? It's wonderful. And the Mela, that says the Gemara. Okay, let's see it inside. In fact, Gemara v'hami boy Rav Papa. Rav Papa had a shaila how to be goyris the Mishnah in Mikvois. The boy Rav Papa, Rav Tani Chasa Kortiv Beresha. Rav on our top line learned Chasa Kortiv. Aval Shleisha Lugin. If you weren't Chasa Kortiv, but you had a full 3 loigin. If you had a full 3 loigin, the Tanakama paslay. Like the Tanakama, it's going to passel, right? For us, Rabbi Yochanan Lameimar, Hakol Halacha Amara. Rav Amar Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. That's one way. This is Rav Papa's. That's the way we learned. Dilma Rav Papa says Rav loitane chasa korta beresha. Rav did not learn chasa korta beresha. What did Rav learn in the Resha? A full 3 loigin. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri ki pligi. So when's the machlokes? Guys, good. Listen. So if Rav learns in the Resha 3 full loigin, and this wine doesn't passel. So what's the machlokes between Tanakam and Rabbi Yochanan and Nuri? You're both going after what? You're both going after color. And you know when the machlokes is? Machlokes is by milk. Guys, look at me. You're a quart short. You add milk. Says the Tanakama, no good. It doesn't passel. You know why? You don't have the share. Says Rabbi Yochanan Nuri, all you care about is what? Is the mara. And therefore it looks like water, it's water. So they don't argue in the Resha, they argue in the Seifa. So in other words, we have a problem right now. You, Rav, wanted to say it's a machlokes tanoim. You had a kasha from Reb Chia. You wanted to say Rav holds like Rabbi Yochanan Nuri, and the Tanakama holds like, and the Rabbi Yochanan and Reb Chia holds like the Tanakama. According to the way your pop is learning, Rav can hold even like the Tanakama. So what's the answer? What Rav Papa had as a shaila, Rava had as a vadai, that you learn chas kortiv. It's a quart short. So, okay, and for the Gemara, who Rav Dama Kidivakol, L'Rav Papa mi boile, L'Rav pshitale, L'Rav it's pashit. Guys, you have it, so it's not an easy Gemara. Not an easy Gemara. Okay, I'm going through it one more time. I'm going to go through it one more time for the boys. But Rav said it didn't. Rav said if you have a mikveh that's a quart short, if you have water that's a quart short, shleish logim mayim, you have full 3 logim, it's not a quart short, and you put in wine, not going to pass the mikveh because you go after color, right? That's like Rabbi Yochanan and Nuri. However, the Tanakama seems to say that all you care about is the shear, but color is not an effect. That's only in the first lashon. In the second lashon, Tanakama also says I care about what. So therefore, if that's in the second lashon, according to Rav Papa, Rav can come out according to everybody. Because as long as it looks like wine, it's not going to pass the mikvah. And the whole machlokes between the Tanakama and Yochanan and Nuri is going to be in the case where it's a quart short and milk falls in. Like the Tanakama, you don't have the share. Like Rabbi Yochanan and Nuri, you have it, and therefore it would pass the mikvah. Okay, the Gemara continues along those lines. Omar Rabbi Yosef, says Rabbi Yosef, Leishmieli hashmaitza. I never heard this sugya. Okay, Rashi tells us something that we know, but let's see it anyway. Rabbi Yosef leishmieli hashmaitza. Talmidei shel Rabbi Yehuda ani. I'm a Talmud of Rabbi Yehuda. Shemati mi piv shmuasu. I never heard him say what's the din about shleish loigim with yayin. The amron leel shmi b'shmei gimel loigim mayim shnaf l'teicha yayin. I never heard that. So Amalei Abaya said Rashi Amalei Abaya. Rabbi Yosef chala. Rabbi Yosef got sick. B'shokach tu modai, and he forgot his Torah. V'hoya Abaya maskiru mashakibel imenu. And Abaya would remind him what he was makabel from him. Right? He's reminding his Rebbe. So what does Abaya say? At Amrit La Nehalon, you told it to us. V'hachi Amrit Nehalon. The Rav loy tana chasa kortiv. Rav did not learn tana chasa bereisha. He did not learn shleisha lugin that was missing a little bit. He learned the full right. Okay, and B'meila, if that's the case, the Tanakama also cares about appearance, and therefore Rav comes out of the Kuli Alma. Rabbi Yochanan Seifa Polig, and Rabbi Yochanan goes ahead and only argues on the Seifa. Rav Dama Kedivya, and therefore Rav holds not only like Rabbi Yochanan Menuri, but he even holds like the Tanakama, who also cares about appearance. Good. Rabbi Yehuda Marav, another case of Rabbi Yehuda saying the name of Rav and Rav Kahana. Guys, if you'd list the case of Rabbi Yehuda Marav, you'd have a whole Masechta. Again, we're only the diak is Rabbi Yehuda Marav and what and Rav Kahana asking on it. That's the knetch over here. Rabbi Yehuda Marav. Chavius Malaya Mayim, Shenaflu Liyam Agadol. You have a chavius of Mayim She'uvim that falls into the Yam Agadol. So now, the Chachamim were geyser that if a person is toivel in Mayim She'uvim, like Roy Sherubo in Mayim She'uvim, he's tamei le'inyan truma. If he's toivel, again they made 8 gezeres. One of the gezeres was if you're toivel in Mayim She'uvim, and we're worried, Rosh Ruba, you're going to go ahead and part of your body's out, you're going to be Matamid. Okay, so here's what we're, according to Rashi, here's what we're worried about. We're worried about, you have the Yamagadol, the water is pretty stable, you're going to go ahead, put Mayim Shuvim, you're going to go ahead and immerse yourself in there, and therefore, you're going to go ahead and you're going to be Tama, you're still Tamei, Le'inyan, what? Truma. You be Tamei, Le'inyan, Truma. Toisus has a huge problem with this, guys. We have the Indian when Smayim Shuvim falls in a kasher mikvah, we have the concept of hashaka, and therefore the water is kasha. right? So good. I'm shuvim, guys. You know how many mikvahs that we have? Once it's a mikvah, they put water in all the time. Mayim shuvim. So he has a problem with that. And Tosfos therefore says, don't be goyris mayim, be goyris yayin, white wine. We're scared that you immerse yourself in white wine. Okay, that's the Tosfos gersa, that white wine. Okay, either way, if you're toivel dam, loyosla tefila, it's not going to count. It's still tummy. Chashin and l'shleisha loigim shleim b'makam echad. With chayish, there should be 3 loigin according to Rashi, water, according to Tosfos white wine in the same spot. The dafkol yamagadol. The koi v'kaimi, the water is pretty what? Tranquil. Aval nara ba'alma, but a river that's running, loy, then you don't have to worry, because whatever water that you threw in is gone. Tanya nami hachi, chavias malaya yayin, you have a chavias full of yayin. Tosfos says that's why you go in the ratio also yayin. Chavias malaya yayin shnafel yamagadol, ha'toibel sham loyos latvila, because chasina l'shleish l'login, shuvim shaloi hayim b'makam echad. So therefore, guys, will be very geschmack. If you go in the Reisha Yayin, Tanya Nami Hachi, it's a brisa that's a raya to the words of the Amoy Rav. That's what Tosfos says. V'chein kika shel truma shenafel sham. Okay, guys, the person immerses himself there. He's metama that water. You're taking truma now and you're putting it in the water where that person had immersed himself. You got it? He immersed himself. He was toivel. You then put the truma in that spot, and in that spot now you're going to say the truma comes tamei. This is all the rabbanon, guys. All my shuvim is the rabbanon. Tamei. Fed the my v'chein. Guys, you just told me the guy's tamei, so of course what's the chiddush? It's the same thing. It says Gamal de Tema Hasam Uki Gavra Cheskase and Hacha Uki Truma Cheskase. Maybe it's not a vadai. Maybe it's keeping the person on this chazaka. This person who was immersing himself is tamei. You know why he remains tamei? Because maybe he immersed himself in mayim shuvim. So in other words, it's working basa. I don't know for sure. I'll keep him on his chazaka. What was the chazaka of truma, fellas? It was tar. The truma was tar. So I would say uki achazkase. Keep it on its level of what of tyra. Keep it tahar, and therefore kamash malon that no kamash malon that one we will say it is tamei. Let's see Rashi, guys. 2 lines down where it gets wide. Ma'od tema. I might think, even though legabe tefillah v'chayish that he's in the mayim shuvim, I would say by kika not. The milsa sveikehi, the whole thing's a suffix. Whether the yayin remained in its place or not. The gabe gavra hu de'arminan loyal slat tefillah. Gabe a person who's tamei, we don't say it works because uki gavra ascheskase hu tamei will keep him amat on his cheskas of and tamehu. It was tamei. Haya. Ubetfila safik ata bolataroi al tarenu misafik. And because it's tefillah, a suffix to tefillah, you want to go ahead and take him off his cheskas tamei. We won't do that. V'hacha uki truma acheskasi. Over here, we're going to go ahead and put truma on its chesaka. V'hi b'cheskas tehayra kaimi kamash malon. That what? Gishmak. Next mission is Yisaidi. Very Yisaidi. Now, when Adam Zaymimim come along and testify, falsely, really they're over on 2 lavim. One, the lav of leisana b'riach et shaker, and kasha zama. We're going to go. I know it's the lav of what we're going to do to them. So there's 2 inyanim. A leisana b'riach et shaker. Don't say false edus. And 2, a kiyum of kasha zama. Says the Gemara. Says the Mishnah. We testified that this person owes 200 sus to his friend. So Reuben and Shimon are found to be Zaymimim because Levi and Yehuda said Imanu Yisem on that day. So Loikin, both Reuben and Shimon get Malchus, Umishalmin, and they pay. In other words, we don't say Kam Le b'derab minei. Shaloi l'shem hamevil de Makos, the pasuk that brings you to Makos, mevil de tashlumin. It's not the same pasuk. Says Rashi, Shaloi Hashem hamevil Malchus mechayve tashlumim, Malchus mishum loisane, v'tashlumim mishlam kasha zama. So it's considered 2 separate, keilu 2 separate averis. I won't be vasachas. So therefore, you can be chayiv twice. Malchus loisane briachet shaker, and tashlumin of kasha zaman because you wanted to cause this guy a payment of $200. Divrei Reb Meir. The chachamim oimrim kol mishalem ain't a like it. Kol mishalem, anyone who pays ain't a like it, right? So the lumdus over here is, so why did you go ahead and choose to go ahead and get Malkut pay? Why not Malkus? So you see that the kasha zamam supersedes loisane. Me'idim arish panishu chayiv Malkus aboyim. Benimtzu zoymimim. Loika shmoinim 40 mishum loisane. It's really 39. Reyache shoker umishum asis loikasha zamam. Divrei Meya v'chacham moimim ein loika el aboyim. The same din, right? The same din twice. You were telling one by what? By Mominus, and one by Issa, right? Okay. What are you getting Malchus for? Kasha Zamam, but not Leisana. Guys, in the second case, what are you getting Malchus for? Rashi, last Rashi, Mishum Kasha Zamam. Avo Mishum Leisana Leilaki can Nefarish B'Gemara. So the Chachamim seem to say that Kasha Zamam supersedes Leisana. Says the Gemara. Bishleim Rabbanon, the Rabbanon who hold that you only chayiv, you pay and you don't get malchus. Good. Kedei Risha Aslai Ksiv. It says the pasuk, V'hoyim bin Hakas Rasha, V'pilo HaShayfeit, V'hikol Lefon of Kedei Risha Aslai b'Misbar. So it says, according to his what? Rishus. Kedei Rishus Achas Atam Achayvai, says the Gemara. V'atam Achayvai Mishum Shtei Rishuyais. This is what we know as what? Kamlei B'derab Minei. One of the sources for Kamlei in Elon Iris. That what? This is one of the sources. El Reb Meir, my timer. So in other words, if the Svarach Yitzayna will be with the Chachamim, we know that what? Kol Mishalim and a Loika. Kol Loika and a Mishalim. It works like that, both ways. So L'chayra, what's the reason Reb Meir why you chayiv both? Reb Meir is going to find a place in the Torah where you chayiv both. Says Gemara, my timer, Amaula says the reason for Reb Meir is Gama mi Moitzi Shemra. We're going to learn from Moitzi Shemra. So what's Moitzi Shemra? After 12 months, a guy comes and says, I love your daughter, and I didn't find Basulim, meaning that during that 12-month period, she must have been Mizana. And right, so really you want to kill her. And then it turns out that what? Again, any case of Moitzi Shemra has to be Adam Zayim. You find out what? That they were Zayim, right? So what happens? We say Loiko Mishalim, you get both. Says Rashi, Dichsiv v'yisru oisai v'onshu oisai. It says two things: v'yisru oisai, which is Malchus, v'onshu oisai. V'aminu mikasubis v'yisru ze Malchus v'yalfina lamakroi. So therefore, it says Reb Meir, I'm going to learn it from Moitzi Shemra. Just like Moitzi Shemra, you're going to get Malchus and pay uadin, where a person testifies against a person who owes a person 200 zuz. You're going to get Malchus for Leisana, and you're going to go ahead and pay for Kasha Zama. Mam, back in the Gemara, Mam Moitzi Shemra, just like I find by Moitzi Shemra, Loikum Mishalem, I've called Loikum Mishalem, so to every place where you have a Chi of Malchus, right? Loikum Mishalem. Yitzi, guess what? Guess what, Yitz? They're all smiling. I'll get back to you. Call me back in about a half hour. He's tuned in. Says Reb Meir, just like Moitzi Shemra gets Malchus and pays, who adin Eidim Zolamim, who go ahead and Mechayiv Mamin will go ahead and pay, and Leisana they're going to go get what? Okay, that's Reb Meir. Okay, Fred the Gemara, how could you learn from Moitzi Shemra? L'mal Moitzi Shemra shekain kinas. Guys, the 100 shkolim you're going to pay for Moitzi Shemra is a kanas. So how can I learn out from Moitzi Shemra? Eidim Zoimim from Moitzi Shemra. Says Gemara, Sava Kirebi Meya. Excuse me, Sava la Kirebi Akiva. The Amar Eidim Zoimim Knasahu. One of the things we learned on the base at the bottom line, Rabbi Akiva is of the opinion, Af a Mishalom al Piatzman. Eidim Zoimim who admit they were Eidim Zoimim do not pay. Why? Because Eidim Zoimim is a kanas, right? And Moed B'Knas is pata. So says the Gemara, Reb Meir holds like Rabbi Akiva that Moitzi Shemra is a kanas, And Memela Eidim Zaymim is the kanas. I can learn out from Mitzvah Shema that's a kanas. In other words, if something's a kanas, it's a chiddush. It's a chiddush. It's unique to that place. Daled v'hei doesn't exist except by Daled v'hei. Kefil doesn't exist only by kefil, right? Chatzi nezik only exists by tam. It's shreiris, okay. Anyway, in main hurdle it's shreiris. Let's not get into that. But l'chayre, it's very geschmack, right? So in other words, if kanas is a chiddush, I can't learn from that. And for the Gemara, guess what? It's also kanas. So Mamela, since it's a kanas, I can go ahead and learn from it. Okay. That's the dialogue we just had. Now, Ula is the one who said that we learned from Mitzvah Shemra. Good? So in other words, guys, for all intents and purposes, right now, we learned Pshat in our Mishnah, according to Rabbi Meir, because the Gemara now is going to digress. So Rabbi Meir, who said, Loikum Mishalem, he learns out from Mitzvah Shemra, just like Mitzvah Shemra, Loikum Mishalem, who I did, and the Eid Mizayim, Loikum Mishalem. Great. In the Limud, Ula learned it out from Mitzvah Shemra, and he applied it to Eid Mizayim. There are those who apply Ula's limud from Mitzvah Shemra on an other din in total separate din. The Tanya, mimenu ad boiker. Okay, this is Geshmak, right? What are we speaking about? Rabbi Avi, we're speaking. I don't know where he is, but we're speaking about the Carbon Pesach. It looks like he's in aisle 1, right? We're speaking. We're speaking of. Anyway, we're speaking about the Carbon Pesach. This is Kashmak, right? What does it say about the Carbon Pesach? Like say, Siru menu at Baiket. Do not leave it over until the morning. This is a heintig day. This is it. Don't leave it over until the morning, right? Don't leave over the Carbon Pesach until the morning. Now, but anyone who leaves it over to the morning, what should you do? Be'esh tisraifu. You should burn it in esh, right? Be'esh tisraifu. You should go ahead and burn it. Guys, you good? Okay. Now, where's Ula pop in? Boha kosev litain essay achalois essay loimer she'ein loikin love. Divrei Reb Yehuda. Fellas, if you steal, are you chayiv malchus? V'heishiv zigzela ashagazal. What do we call that? Alav hanitak la'asei. Says Reb Yehuda, guess what? If you're over the lav of what? Of leaving over the Carbon Pesach, you don't get malchus for that. Why? Because you can burn it. Once you can burn it, I'm attacking the what? The lav. Rabbi Akiva Omer, he said we have. I think it's Rabbi Yaakov. I think it's Rabbi Yaakov, but yeah, Rabbi Yaakov. Lo min Hashem who said it's not from the pasuk. In other words, that you're not getting malchus is not because it says beish tisreifu. That's not the reason. It's not a lav hanitak. Elamishum to have a lav she'ein b'maisa. V'chol lav she'ein b'maisa ain't like in a love. Guys, we just had this also on Beis over Beis, right? In order to get malchus, you have to be compared to the lav ali sachsim shar b'dishar. You have to be comparable to that. How are you over on leaving something over? Just by leaving it over. You didn't do anything. So Mamela, I don't need the pasuk beish tisrofu to be attacking it. I'm not getting malchus in the first place. It's a lav she'ein b'maisa. You can make an inference over here that Rabbi Yehuda, who does learn and make it a lav anitak, holds a lav she'ein b'maisa loikin a lav. Fellas, yeah? Loit Rabbi Yehuda, it must be he holds a lav she'ein b'maisa loikin a lav, because he had to make it into a lav hanitak, not to go ahead and get gestrafen. Mechal Rabbi Yehuda savar lav she'ein b'maisa loikin a lav. Minole. So there you got your setup now. Good? This is where Ula comes in. Where does Rabbi Yehuda know that a lav she'ein b'maisa you would get malchus? After all, we have a limit not like that. So gama mimaitz shemra. There you go. Ama Ula. Here's where we applied Ula's limud, not to Eidim Zaymimim. We applied Ula's lima. Uma's limud. We applied it what to lav she'ein b'maisa. Ma mitzvah shemra. Lav she'ein b'maisa. Just like mitzvah shemra. He just spoke. He didn't do a maisa. And nonetheless, like in a love, you're going to get malchus. Afkol lav she'ein b'maisa, like in a love. So to all lav she'ein b'maisa, you're going to go ahead and get malchus. Again, just like mitzvah shemra is a lav she'ein b'maisa, and it says v'yisro, so you get malchus. Who didn't call lav shem b'maisa? The male he had his zet sign by noisa. The reason you don't get malchus is because it's a lav anitach by burning it. You'll ask, Malamoitzi Shemra, Malamoitzi Shemra Shekain Loika Umishalem. You know why you get Malchus? Not because it's a Lav Shema Maisa, because it has an extra chumrah. You have a double whammy. Not only are you getting Malchus because you pay, maybe you're getting Malchus because you're paying also. In other words, how can I learn out any Lav Shema Maisa? You get Malchus and Moitzi Shemra. Moitzi Shemra has an added chumrah. Not only are you getting Malchus, you're paying as well. So I can't use that as a source for Lav Shem B'maisa. Ella Amrei Shlakish, you're right. Gomar me Edim Zaymimim. Edim Zaymimim get Malchus. It's not a Maisa. So who adin? Who adin what? Call Lav Shem B'maisa. My Edim Zaymimim Lav Shem B'maisa loikin a love. Because of Saneh. I've called Lav Shem B'maisa loikin a love. So too all Lav Shem B'maisa you will go get what? You'll get Malchus. Good. Okay, I think let me redo that. My Edom Zoim get Malchus from Ben Gerush Mechalutza. It's Tigos Tzaddik, right? In other words, you're going to get Malchus. So we see that Edom Zoim get Malchus, even though they didn't go ahead and do a Maisa. So one more time. I can't learn out from Moitzi Shemra, because Moitzi Shemra has the Chumrah that what? That you pay. So where will I learn out Lav Shem Maisa from? I'll learn out from Edom Zoimim. Ben Gerushim Ben Chalutza. Meidim anu b'shu Ben Gerushim Ben Chalutza. Ein oimim yaseh Ben Gerushim Ben Chalutza. Tachtav elo loika aboyim. So what do you see? Ein zoimim is a lav shein b'maisa, and yet you're getting malchus. So I got a new source. Okay, very good. And we just brought. Why are we bringing this in? Because ikedemasni ula the gam meitzi shemra from ula we apply to here. I'll ask the following: Maleidim zoimim shkein ein tzurichim hasra. Eidim Zaymin do not need Hasra, right? They don't need Hasra. Even without Hasra, you don't tell people, I'm warning you, if you go ahead and say, hey, that two other people can come along, you don't need that. You don't need that. So that's a tremendous chumrah. Because Kol Lam Shevet Torah, you need an Ashara, right? You need Eidim to warn him. And over here, you don't need Eidim to warn. So you have that extra chumrah. Good. So you couldn't learn from Moitzi Shemra why? Like in Mishalim. You can't learn out what from Eidim Zayimim because you don't need Asra. So now you don't have a source. Rabbi Yehuda, where is your source that a lav Shem B'maisa like in a love? I don't have a source. Says the Gemara, I'll tell you where you learn it from. Moitzi Shemra Yochiach, right? Malay Mizayim Shekain B'maisa like in a love. Malay Mizayim Shekain Ein Tzurich Masra. Moitzi Shemra Yochiach. So Moitzi Shemra needs Hasra, and yes, you do get Malchus. So it's not what? Not necessarily. The Chazer Adin. Lo Yirizeh Kirizeh. The common factors between Moitzi Shemra and Eidim Zayimim are not similar. For Lo Yirizeh Kirizeh. Hatzad HaShavash HaBehen between Moitzi Shemra and Eidim Zayimim is Lav Shem B'maisa Loikin a love. Av Kol Lav Shem B'maisa Loikin a love. Okay, guys, we're familiar with this language. You'll learn something called a Memetzino. Failing to learn that one, you'll try another one. If you fail in both, because each one has a right, we'll look for a commonality and say, listen, this one's like a Mishalem, this one doesn't need Asra, but none, listen, Eidim Zayim actually is like a Mishalem. That's why he only went Mala Moitzi Shemra that needs Hasra. That's why he only went. Usually go both ways. He only went one way, right? So, but Sarashava is that they're both the Lav Shem B'maisa and you're getting Malchus. Who adin Kol Lav Shem B'maisa. So we didn't learn out from either one singularly, but we learned them out from the commonality of both of them. Read the Gemara, the commonality of both of them. I got a kasha. Malit Sarashava Shebehen Shekin Kanas. Eidim Zayimim is Knas. We just like Rabbi Akiva. Moitzi Shemra is the greatest Knas. Why? It's a Dava Kotzev. Any Dava Kotzev, 100 Meya Kesef, Shekel Kesef, is a Dava Kotzev. Mas Enkein, any other Lav Shem Maisa is not. Guys, how do you know that you don't get Malchus? In other words, the whole reason you said by Meiser is because it's a Lav Anitak, but you would get Maisa. Why would you get Malchus? Why would you get Malchus? It's not a Kanas. So if this is your source, Rabbi Yehuda, I got a problem. All you've proven is that anytime something's a kanas, we'll say a lav shem b'maisa and loikin. But if it's not a kanas, I don't have a source for lav shem b'maisa that you get malchus. Rabbi Yehuda loisav like Rabbi Akiva. He doesn't hold like Rabbi Akiva. Why do you mean he doesn't hold like Rabbi Akiva? He holds a smamin. In other words, if you go ahead and testify, you're goyrim, you're over this of garmi, you're causing a person a monetary loss or whatever it is. So it's not a kanasa. Memela, I could learn out lav shem b'maisa. What's your kasha? Your kasha is that they're both kanas. It's not a kanas. If I hold Edim Zayim is not a kanas, so l'chayra, I have a good, right now I have a good limud. Guys, I have a good limud. Between Edim Zayim and Mitzvah Shemra, I can learn out any lav shem b'maisa like in a love. Fred the Gemara, Elamara tzad hashava shebehen shekain behen yesh tzad chomor. These are two unique dinim. Each one has a chumrah that the other one doesn't have, that nothing has. One, you don't need hasra, and the other one, that loika u'mishalim. Okay? Masha'en kain, any lav shem b'maisa that doesn't have the chumrah, maybe you can't learn out the malchus. In other words, malchus is a chumrah. You know why we're so machmir? Loika mishalim. Ein zoymim, you know we're machmir? You don't need hasra. But regular case that doesn't have a tzad chumrah, right? Maybe you won't get malchus. That's the kasha on the limud from Mitzvah Shema and Edim Zayimim. On that, the Gemara gives a great teretz. And for the Gemara, Rabbi Yehuda tzad chama loy parach. Guys, if the reason why by Edim Zayimim you're getting malchus is because you don't need asra, 1 second, that can't be the reason, because by Mitzvah Shema you do need asra. So you see that tzad chomer is not the thing causing me to get malchus. Again, what's the tzad chomer of Edim Zayimim? You don't need asra. So you're going to say, oh, that's why you get malchus, because it has a tzad chomer. 1 second. Mitzvah Shema, you do need asra. So you see that tzad chomer of Edim Zayimim is not the thing causing the malchus, because Mitzvah Shema is getting malchus. You need asra. So therefore, look at Rashi, guys. Rabbi Yehuda tzad chomer loy parich. Hoyel v'chomer shal zeh, ein a chomer shal zeh. Ain't Tama Malchus totally boy. Since the chumras are totally different, so that can't be the reason that's causing the Malchus. Okay, so now you have a source. Okay, guys, let's see what we did so far. This Mishnah says the Mishnah. You go ahead, you testify. You owe 200 zuz. Says Rameya loika u'mishalem. Where does he learn it out from? He learns it out from Mitzvah Shema, right? He learns it out from Mitzvah Shema, right? Mitzvah Shema is a kanas. He goes like Rabbi Akiva. Good. Now the Gemara digresses, and it says, "Well, 1 second. Ulu, who said he learns that from Mitzvah Shema, we didn't apply it to Edim Zayimim. We applied it to Lav Shem B'Maisa, and we were successful in saying that through a limud of Edim Zayimim and Mitzvah Shema, that's Rabbi Yehuda's source for Lav Shem B'Maisa. Good." Now, getting back to our Mishnah, the Chachamim who hold that you only pay and don't get malchus, correct? What do they do with this whole kit and caboodle? For Rabbanan, Hailei Sana Briachet Shakam Aidar Shibei. Guys, they're saying you're paying, right? You're not getting malchus. What are you paying for? What are you paying for? Kasha Zamam. You're paying for Kasha Zamam. Rabbi Meir was right. There's 2 isurim over here. There's 2 psukim. Kasha Zamam Lisana. The Chacham will say you only pay. Why aren't you're not getting malchus Lisana? Listen, what do they do with the pasuk? Says the Gemara, Hahumi boile le'ashara le'edim zayimim. Any punishment in the Torah, you need an ashara. You need a warning. Where's the warning for edim zayimim not to be edim zayimim? Lisana breyachet shaker. That tells me that don't go ahead. If you do, what's the punishment? But the warning is from what? From Leisana. For Meya, as Reb Meya, who uses Leisana to teach me Malchus, that Loika U'Mishalem. So if he's losing Leisana for Malchus, where does he know the Ashara for what? For Edim Zaymimim. Where does he know the warning for? So Rav Yirmiyah, Nafkale, he learns it out from Bahanishorim Yishmu, V'ira'u, Lo Yosifu Od, Lo Yosifu Lasois oid kadavara hazeh bir kirbecha. So the pasuk says, it says in the Parsha of Edim Zoymimim, Banisharim, and those people left over should hear and they should fear. So what's the Torah telling you? Those people who are left over should hear and fear. Don't be like them, guys. Don't be like them. Those who are left over from this is in the Parsha of Edim Zoymimim. Those left over should hear and see and fear. So there's Yazhara. Banisharim, Yishmu V'Yirah. Rabbanan, what do Rabbanan do with that limud? They have from Leisana. To say that what Bezin has to be machris and farsim and publicize, the reason these people are getting killed is because they testified falsely against this individual. Meya, where does he know that what? Where does he know? Since he uses it for ashara, where does he know hachraza from? Hachraza mimi yishmu v'yiro nafku, right? From v'yishmu they'll hear, v'yiro they'll fear. Yishmu v'yiro. Okay, I mean Isharim, that's the Ashara. Cholam Yishmu v'yiro. No, I